This is known as the Lady of Elche. She was found in 1897 in Spain on the Iberian Peninsula. This enigmatic figure, which looks a lot like Princess Lea of Star Wars, with these strange conical donut shapes around her ears, which people have speculated about for hundreds of years now, on whether she's got some hearing device or if it's just something that's actually cosmetic, things like that. But when she was first found, they thought that she was a Moor. The original people there called her Moorish because she didn't really have the Spanish looks, but the look of more Moors. So that can give you some insight into that also. And let's take a look into this, because they found more objects now, and of course they found a few of these different statues of the Lady of Elche. You can see how beautiful she is and smooth-faced. It's really a nice statue. She's adorned with all types of things, all types of jewelry. And people wonder if it's just cosmetic, like a headpiece that she has, or if that headpiece in the middle was, but then the outside's not. Somebody's got to know what this attaches to, though. In her back is an opening, and they suspected something was stolen out of the statue when it was first found, that someone had found it was hollow and chipped it open and found it. Now, they found another one, too, known as the Lady of Gardamar. And she stands in silent solitude here and also in display in the museum at Spain. And her face was cracked and a little bit of her necklace area, but they've painstakingly remade it exactly like it should be. And you can see the difference in that too, but there was also something hidden in her statue, and it shows you that these were somehow orifice or holding. Well, they've done DNA testing on these now, and you can tell these are the same thing, the same dress, the same amulet, by the way, on the chest. And so they say this has got to be the same one. In Utah, they found this, which looks just like it, very much so. But one thing that's neat about it is it looks like her, and yet it looks very Egyptian. And they found this in Utah, in the United States. And of course, Mormons are going crazy. This gives some credence to their whole gold tablet thing, but this wouldn't even be from the same period they talk about their Moroni thing from. Interestingly, it's got some Cunieform writing around the outside of it, which they've deciphered. And we'll get to that in a moment. But here's the look of the other buckle that they've found now, 14 foot down in the soil. And so somebody would have really had to gone through the trouble of it. 300 to 400 BC is whenever those statues are made. Now that cuneiform that's around the outside of it says something, and it says the Assyrian woman. And that's odd. So were the Assyrians involved in this somehow? You get a good close look at her here. She was actually painted at one time, they know, and she still retained some of the red that was on her lips. Her body was left pale, and her stones that were her eyes now are all taken out. No one can tell what they were, but I wonder if they were crystal or lapis lazuli insets to them. But quite a gorgeous representation here. And they think this is probably what she looked like when she was all colored up, the beads and everything that's around onto her. And it makes one wonder what connections that they have here to the Americas. Now, I've shown you a few videos where Sumerians were in South America and so on. And you know the Assyrians took over the Sumerians in way antiquity. In fact, what we consider to be Sumerians quite often here in studies, and whenever I studied, were actually Assyrians after the conquest, and that was Assyrian Sumeria versus the original Sumerians that were there. So where did they go, and what did they, and what did they do after that happened? Whenever they were kicked out, they were literally kicked out of there, and it seems their diaspora came over and into Europe, effectively over around through the top of Anatolia. Some of them could have drifted straight down and went into Canaanite lands and stuff, but others went farther afield and over more all the way to Spain and the Iberian Peninsula. And that's been pretty much proven. And then some of the Scandinavians and people that have genetics that go back to this time. But the oddity here is that it shows up to where she's an Assyrian. And why would there be an Assyrian artifact of that age in that depth in Utah here itself? There's been a lot of weird artifacts found in America. Most of them are covered up or never heard about, or they just kind of flinch at it. But these two ladies here attest to something totally different, and perhaps a different thought and a different past that we don't really know about. Now, Lady of Elche is a limestone bust, and it was found 2 kilometers south of Elche, Spain, so that's the reason it gets the name for it. And El is an name to have on it too. El is the god of the Levant, and of course Spaniards use El as the, and so it God was the, I am. So it's odd, but then they tell you that she also probably has a direct association with Carthaginian people, and Tanit, their goddess here, and that it would have been some representation of that. The Phoenician goddess here that we know about was always shown with her curly hair that was painted red more often than not. Now, Baal was her consort, and so this puts the Lady of Elche, or it's spelled ELX, as the Queen of Heaven in that area, and this would have been their representation, like we see the Sumerians having Inanna, and we see Diana, and we see Istara and Ishtar. And now what we're seeing here is over in the Iberian Peninsula, something that probably was very much associated with the Carthaginians and Tanit and the Phoenicians and the boat people of old. Here's another recreation that somebody has done of what she would have looked like in the time. I don't know how they pulled off the gold, if there might have been foil over those and then paints and colors over each one. But she is wearing 3 layers of dress here. Just neat. She has a undergarment and overgarment like a robe, which is very Roman, and one arm slung. And then she has a wrapping around her that's more of a cloak or a coat, more fashioned of just something almost like a blanket. So it looks somewhat South American, and it also looks somewhat Persian and somewhat of a twist between Carthaginian, and then it's unique in itself because it looks like Princess Lea. The sculpture was found on August 4th, 1897 by a young worker, Manuel Campello Esclapes. The popular version of the story differs from the official report of Periobama, who was a local keeper of the records, which stated that Antonio Macia found the bust, but he borrows version of the discovery that was farm workers clearing from the south slope of La Alquida for our agricultural purposes, just cleaning the land, discovered the sculpture, and the bust was quickly named Reina Mora, or Moor Queen, by the locals. And so somehow we have an Assyrian queen over here in the Iberian Peninsula, which would be an oddity in itself for sure, but then why would we have her depiction again, but looking more Egyptian, with the actual lotus of Egypt over her head, with the same designation on, and find it in Utah, in the United States of America? Another odd Oopart here, guys. Princess Lea cometh. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.